First, let me say happy CNA Week 2021. What a great day. What a great start. I'm excited about this webinar. I'm excited for all of those of you who registered, and we are streaming live also to Facebook. So welcome and happy CNA Week 2021. Standing up for yourself at work is one of those subject matters that means a great deal to me, and I think it does for you as well. And I know that we have a lot of different folks from healthcare joining us today. Not all of you are CNAs, and so please feel free at any time to utilize the chat. Be sure to chat in to all attendees. Love to see any questions you have as we go through the program. But let's just talk for a minute about CNA Week. We came up with the theme, you came, you fought, and you protected patients everywhere. No matter the setting, hospital, assisted living, nursing homes, home care, hospice, home health, private duty, anywhere you could care, you showed up, you fought this damn virus, and you protected patients to the best of your ability. Yes, we have a CNA staffing crisis across this country. The sky is the limit for a CNA in 2021 when it comes to where they work, how they're treated, and what they want to do as a result of that. I congratulate you all for being there, for coming, for fighting, and for protecting. CNAs make my life better, and I hope here at NAHCA we make your professional life better as well. I've spent 26 years working to gain you the honor your profession deserves. As you know better than anyone, CNAs most always feel devalued at work. That is so unfortunate. I have heard CNAs for 40 years, actually my first week in dietary. Many of you have heard the story, and I won't say it again or tell it again. But for 40 years, I've heard CNAs say things like low man on the totem pole, peons, and even butt wipers. But wait, there's even one more than that. There's another one. Glorified butt wipers is what I've heard from thousands of CNAs across this country for far too many years. Between the time I was a CNA and became a nursing home administrator, I began in 1980. I became a nursing home administrator in 1989. Don't think I had money. High school dropout. My stepdad loaned me the money to take the test, and my social work consultant loaned me the money or gave me the money to take the CEUs I needed in order to become an administrator. It was a rough road to hoe. But I remember distinctly reading, because I had a very low self-esteem. I have never read well. I can't spell to save my life. I should never send an email out that is not proofread by someone. I know many of you have heard me say grammatically, I know a sentence begins with a capital and a paragraph ends with a period, and I only write one paragraph, no matter if it's 10 pages or 1 page. So you can see now why I need grammatical assistance. But I read a quote that changed my life, because the first time I took the administrator's exam, yes, the first time I failed it, I spent the 4 hours driving to the state capitol to take my examination. And all the while I drove there, I thought to myself, who do you think you are? You're no business lady. You're fat. You're ugly. Your teeth are bad. There's so many things that you can't read well, you can't spell. Who do you think you are trying to become a businesswoman, a nursing home administrator? And so I'd done a number on myself. But between there and the time I took the test again, I read a quote by Eleanor Roosevelt, who by most accounts was talked about being a very unattractive, even ugly woman. Eleanor Roosevelt wrote a quote that said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your permission." Think about that for a minute. No one can make you feel inferior without your permission. Think about that. No one could make her believe she was ugly unless she allowed them to make her feel ugly. No one could make me feel too fat, too bad at teeth, too bad at spelling, unless I allowed them to. And if we allow other people to dictate our futures, our lives, our everyday dreams and hopes, we will never achieve our true purpose. As CNAs, your true purpose is loving the residents and oftentimes becoming almost like family to the residents' family. Everything about you is so important. And I, like you, when I first became a CNA, I thought it was something to be real proud of. I dressed well. I even starched my uniforms. I thought it was something important. But soon I learned in hanging out with CNAs that, heck, we're not important. We're not important. We're not valued. Then I became an administrator and I thought, I do value them. I adore them. I'm out feeding in the dining room, not even when state's there, because I knew that was one of the hypocrisies that CNAs have felt for all my 40 years anyway, as the only time. Who loves state? CNAs love state surveys. It's the only time of the year they get extra help if there's any extra help to be had. Everyone else hates survey. However, I've heard a lot of CNAs say to me throughout the years, well, if they just run this place like survey was happening every day, they wouldn't have to get all worked up about it. You've never been in the hot seat during a survey, apparently. And by the way, if they ran your places like survey was every day, you couldn't stand the work there. The stress would be so high. But let's get back to this. No one can make you feel inferior without your permission. I can't teach you a thing today without your permission. I can't make you laugh. I can't make you cry. I can't make you take action. You have to give me permission today to have any kind of impact whatsoever. And so far, I've told you how proud. I've told you that your work is incredible. And I haven't even dug into what makes it the most incredible. But I am telling you right now, your frustration, your anger, almost everything you say is spot on. We just have to talk about how to use that to your advantage. Do you choose to wallow in complaints? Just this morning, a CNA took in things for CNA Week, gifts, nice things, motivational posters, things to put on the bulletin board, ink pens and things to give to her fellow coworkers, only to be met by CNAs who, not management, she was met by fellow CNAs who said, why bother? We don't care anything about that. We don't care anything about that. So, those of you that out there with enough gas to still try, to still stand up for what you believe in as a professional CNA, then you have to know this. No one in your career have you ever heard a page at work or get a text if you're in home care or hospice traveling? Have you ever gotten a text that says, peons to report in immediately? Butt wipers report in instantly. Low man on the totem pole, report to the desk, stat. No, I don't believe anyone has ever heard that. But I know what you're saying, because you've said it to me before. They make us feel that way. Remember, no one can make you feel any way without your permission. So, as we get into the program, professional CNAs deserve all the highest respect that can be given. But we all also know CNAs who are not leading, who are not setting an example for others. Another CNA asked me recently, she said, I was asked by a coworker, why do you care so much? Why do you stay so long? Why do you just don't quit till your work is all done? What a question. Her response was, because I like to be able to lay down and go to sleep at night with a clear conscience. That was a really great response. And that's the way we all need to respond as professional CNAs. We will get the treatment we deserve when we hold one another accountable. However, you personally can take action right away. Let's go to the second slide that we have here. I think the first slide was just our title slide. And some of the professional challenges CNAs face, of course, is compensation. That's been the biggest talk of the day for you and by others. And many people like NAHCA, other organizations, and other supporters are fighting like heck to ensure compensation moves forward for CNAs. It is a must, but we don't want to do it to only incentivize anybody and everybody to become one. Yesterday, I received a call from an administrator who said, here's my choices. We run a staffing pattern in our nursing home, 1 CNA for every 8 residents. I said, kudos, way to go. That's awesome. He said, however, I have the choice of doing 2 things to increase wages. I can raise them to $16 an hour, but my company says I'll have to then go to a ratio of 1 CNA per 10 residents. Or my second option is to go to $18 an hour and go to 1 CNA for every 12 residents. What should I pick? I said, it depends. Do you brag on having person-centered care? You can't do both. So I'd be interested in those of you who are on the webinar today to help me answer that question. What are your thoughts on that? If we raise wages, then we have to take care of more residents. What is the thought? What are your thoughts? Chat in if you have a chance or you're at a computer where you can chat. I don't expect anybody to, try to chat from their phone because I did that last Friday. I took a webinar on my phone, not a webinar, but a meeting, and I could not for the life of me. There's like seven screens you have to scroll through to go to a chat. So I don't expect you to chat in, but if some of the others of you might be at a computer today, some say they'd take 12 residents for $18 an hour. I see that coming in. Some say quality matters first. It's a tough world out there when it comes to compensation. But here's something I hear, and you're going to hear more of it. It's going to happen, and it happens every time there's some kind of minimum wage increase. People that make less than career CNAs come up to a real close margin. So for example, if they start at 18 an hour and you're currently at 17 an hour, you will go to 18 an hour just like everybody that starts. So where did your seniority go? These are all challenges and problems that we face every day as CNAs. Sorry, I'm stumbling a little bit because I like to watch the chat as I'm talking as well. So compensation is going to come with challenges. However, we have got, CNAs deserve it. The residents deserve it. Person-centered care is a must. It hasn't been happening through COVID because we're 200,000 CNAs short across the nation. Hospitals don't have enough. Agency cannot find enough CNAs to place in all of the areas of the country where CNAs are needed. So compensation will change. But what I can talk to you about with compensation is this. You're going to have some tough, you're going to have to think about this, and we'll talk in the next slide a little bit about that as well. But let's go back to that new makes 18 an hour. Now you make 18 an hour and you've been there 7 years. That's not going to feel very good. And you're likely going to burst in like I would have back in part of my CNA career, bust in that office door and say, what the hell? The brand new people are making what I'm making. Or Janice is making as much as I'm making. She started 6 months ago and I've been here 20 years. These frustrations are not with Janice. They are not with the new people. Do not take this out on new people. You cannot blame someone for standing up for what they want in wages and accepting it. So please, with the turnover and the shortage and how desperate, we don't need people. We need professional CNAs. We need people to enter this field and receive a professional training from the people who love the residents most. Not feeling valued. My God, I've never found a setting where CNAs feel valued. I have, however, understood for many years that you have to value yourself before anyone can value you. My next webinar later in CNA week is going to be on the value of a CNA. I happen to think it's very, very high value, but let's look at this for a minute. If you look at CNA employee satisfaction outcomes, survey outcomes data, there you can look at them in each field: hospice, home health, home care, nursing home. But what you're going to find is the least satisfied employee is a CNA. According to the data, in a nursing home, the most valued person, the happiest employee at the care center is the business office manager. Residents are our business. The second least satisfied with their job are nurses in nursing homes. The two people closest to the residents, the very two people absolutely closest to the residents, are the least satisfied. The business office manager Is the most satisfied the person the furthest from the resident and behind a wall? Does that tell people the resident is the problem? Because I will tell you right now, I don't believe that's what the issue is with CNAs and nurses. Chat in if you disagree. The business office manager doesn't have the moral distress, right? But if you just look at the data, how can you not, if you're not familiar with our work, if US News and World Report ever gets a hold of that data, imagine how bad we will look. That taking care of old people is not satisfactory to nurses and CNAs. We have to be aware of what we project to people. And if we're the least satisfied, then we have to do something about it. Management will never change. I have sat on a million meetings this past 15 months through this pandemic, and everyone says we've got to get management to value CNAs more. We have to get management to value CNAs more. For God's sakes, there's 2 managers. When I was an administrator, I didn't have time to show anybody value. I was too busy trying to keep the damn place from getting shut down. I was getting phone calls why my census wasn't higher. Why are you 5 cents over budget on your dietary expenses? What have you done to increase census? No one ever calls up the administrator and says, you're doing a hell of a job. We couldn't be more proud of you. Keep on keeping on. There is no, and I asked a group of CNAs one time, when's the last time you told your administrator they were doing a good job? One CNA said, what for? All ours does, sit on phone, talk to your kids all day. Well, that's what I thought they did too. That's why I become one, but it turns out that's a really tough position. You can't make anybody happy, and no one's trying to make you happy. They're just critical of every decision we make. But I always go back to my CNA roots because as an administrator, I did not have the power you do. Part of our issues is we're not really professional enough to deal with negative coworkers. Why do you care so much? Why do you stay so long? I was so proud of our member who said, because I like to be able to sleep at night with a clean conscience. We must hold one another accountable. This has gotten completely out of control where negative people control the narrative. There has been a trend since the beginning of time for good people to be punished for what the bad people do. I'll never forget one time a resident fell out of their chair slipped off a van lift. It was an accident, a single isolated accident. It never happened before. It's never happened since. But everyone had to change protocol for a lift, for one accident. That's just a simple example of how often in life we get rained down on with rules and regulations, and more of it is because of the people who are the problem, not because of those that are the solution. I firmly maintain and have since the beginning, since the day Lisa Sweet and I started this association for you. I have believed that you have the power to make nursing homes, make home care and hospice, hospital care better than anyone else. And you might say, why should we? Because you can. That's why. You can. You are not a victim in this unless you choose to be. You are smart, intelligent, and you know residents, you know patients better than anyone out there. That counts for something unless you don't believe it does. Not being able to meet the residents' needs, the patient's needs, this is a horrible feeling. Horrible. So sometimes, you know, it is nearly impossible. And that hasn't changed a lot from the days I was a CNA in the 1980s. I didn't leave ever without feeling I could have done more, I should have done more, I would have done more had there only been more time. But before you say that, you need to make sure you didn't take 10 smoke breaks or 10 soda pop breaks throughout a shift. You have to make sure that you can look back at what you did and say, I didn't do a job. These aren't jobs for nurses and CNAs. These are callings. And if you may not have got a calling, you may have signed up for a job, you may have been like me, your mother made you. I always said I didn't receive a calling until a few years ago, 10 or 15 years ago, and I was giving a speech somewhere at a convention, and I said I didn't receive a calling. And then pretty soon I went into a story many of you have heard, my experience with Mrs. Punton, and how I disrespected her one day. And I realized what the power and the influence we truly have. But I also understand we make choices on how we use that power and that influence. Most of the time we feel there's nothing we can do about it. Most of the time we think about it as a job or a facility. If everyone else can call in, I can call in. No, you can't. You not showing up at a factory, nobody dies. You not showing up in food service, nobody dies. You don't show up in healthcare, patients fall. They get sicker. They die because you're not there. Just because. Well, Brett, I'll have to tell it to you sometime. It's pretty damn good. On my 20th day as a CNA, I abused a resident. And then when I was telling that story during the speech, I realized I did answer a calling. My calling came in the form of a call light. Miss Punton had her light on, and then she wasn't my resident, so I went in there with that attitude to begin with and showed my ass really well, and she called me down for it. And I was 18 years old, and I realized right then, holy cow, I got to do better. Not being able to meet their needs is one of the hardest hits you take. And then that old nurse-CNA relationship. That's one of the most toxic relationships there is, and it's so unfortunate because we need each other so badly. And there's really no reason not to respect one another other than the fact that we're just pissed. We're tired. We all like the nurse that comes out and helps us. We don't like the nurse that charts all the time. However, charting is a big role. That is their responsibility. And our responsibility is the residents. And I understand my team has been trying to get me to do some TikTok videos. I don't even know what TikTok is. Oh, I see. Sorry, Lisa. I'll clarify in just a moment. Now I forgot what I was going to say. Gosh darn it. Anyway, no, not all nurses. I mean, they're are great nurses, there's great CNAs, but it is not a great relationship. Too much negativity is thrown down, too much shade is thrown down on both nurses and CNAs between themselves. But each of you are going to have to give one another a break, because everyone deserves respect who is taking care of human lives. I don't care what setting you're in. We can't take anything for granted. I was telling the team the other day, I've flown quite a bit over the last 20 years. I have never been on a flight where the pilot and co-pilot just jump in and say, hey folks, we've had 1,000 flights now. We're gonna skip the cockpit checks. We're just gonna take flight. Here we go, buckle up. They go through a checklist every time. Not once a day before they fly, every single flight. They never take one thing for granted, because they're holding lives in their hands. And that's what we do as CNAs and nurses. Next slide, Matt, if you will, please. So what can we do about all this? Number one, let me check my time. Okay. What can we do about it? All right. So I told you I used to bust in going, I'm not taking this anymore. I'm not working with so-and-so anymore. Or if I have to work that hall by myself, I'm out of here. I was a queen of fit throwing. I always showed up, so I nearly always got my way because I was a big bully. I won't be back. So we have to get ourselves under control. I could not be successful as a CNA until I could control my emotions and my anger. Do not act out of frustration and anger. We do that because we're very passionate people, and everyone has a limit to what they can take. So let's try to look at this from what we can do before we get to that point. We take a lot of things for granted. We think it's common sense and people understand they should know how to make us feel valued. We shouldn't have to stand up for ourselves. It shouldn't be necessary. It's always necessary for everyone to stand up for themselves, to be part of the team. So don't expect others to understand how you feel, because most people don't. Most people do not know how you feel. So we got to manage our thoughts. Manage those thoughts. Because when we can control what we need to have happen, let's take a scenario. All right, let's say you've got this nurse you've worked with for a while, and for some reason you feel all of a sudden you're being picked on. You're thinking, what about, I've been here a long time and she's treating these new CNAs better than she's treating me. I'm not going to take much more of this. You've gone to the DON, you've complained to everybody you can think to complain about, and nothing's changed. Nothing's going to change. Nothing will change until you do this. Do not act out of anger and frustration. Do not expect others to understand how you feel, because most won't. Manage your thoughts and then develop your message. How are you feeling? What do you want to say about how you're feeling? And then schedule a meeting with that very nurse. We're just using this one example, but this pretty much applies to most every situation you will find yourself in. There is no sense. You see, I was written up twice for my negative attitude, for all that pushing around and threatening to quit all the time, and I'm doing the work of two, and then I realized it's impossible for one person to do the work of two. It's just something to say that sounds good. I don't know what it does, but we do not. It's physically impossible to do the work of two. Develop your message and schedule a meeting with the person you have an issue with. your charge nurse, your administrator, your DON. It makes no, your regional manager. It makes no difference. You have a right to be heard. And if what you're saying is not always out of just because you've had it up to here, no one listens to that. Another example, early on in NAHCA, was probably 1999, 4 years in, I'm called to the telephone. Wasn't a cell phone, of course, but I get to the phone. Hello. It was the CNA, and he had been in one of my seminars at some point in time, and he said to me, "Miss Porter, you've got to get to our facility now." I said, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" He said, "Our administrator and DON need to be hauled off in handcuffs today." I said, "Oh goodness." I said, "I'm not sure what I can do about that, but here's what I can tell you can do. I'm certain your company has an 800 number posted somewhere where you can call corporate." "We've done that." I said, "Okay, then I'm sure there's a number listed where you can call state." "We've done that too." And I said, "Well, I don't have any influence in your company. All I can do is tell you what you can do." And he goes, "You're not going to do anything else. You're not going to do anything to help us either," and slammed down the phone. I thought, what a crackpot. The administrator and DON need to be hauled off to jail? 3 or 4 months later, I was out attending a workshop, and I ran into one of their corporate nurses. And I said, "Oh, I meant to call you a few months ago because I heard from one of your CNAs, and he said, blah, 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 blah." And he said his administrator and DON needed to be hauled off in handcuffs today. She said they were about 3 weeks ago. He was right. The staff was right. But by the time they told anybody, they were so pissed off, pardon my language, that they sounded like nuts. See what I mean? Don't act out of anger and frustration. We're passionate people, so often we can be misunderstood and we look like the crazy person. Do not expect others to understand how you feel, because most won't. Had they managed their thoughts, developed their message, and scheduled a meeting, yep, takes longer than throwing a fit, it surely does. But in the end, not any longer will have taken by to do it right and have a better outcome for yourself. So in this meeting, let's go back to the CNA nurse situation for just a moment. And I've got my nurse. This actually has happened to many of our members. They've done this. They've followed this advice that we have here at NAHCA, and it has worked to their advantage over and over and over again. That's why I'm always happy to speak on it. So I'm with this nurse. I feel like she's running me around, doesn't trust me, working me like crazy, not really talking to me the way she used to. I can have a fit and ask for another shift or quit, but I ain't going to get my way. But let's say the nurse is Ann. And one day, once I've done all these steps, I'm going to go to Ann and schedule a meeting. Ann, would you have some time for us to visit for a few minutes? I have a couple questions I'd like to ask you. "Oh, I guess, but I've got a lot of charting to do." "Oh, I understand that, Ann. I do, and I want to be, that's why I asked if you have any time. I'd love to visit with you." "Well, all right. How about if you come up here at 1:30 in the afternoon and we can spend a few minutes?" "Okay, Ann, sounds great." Show up there, wherever Ann said. Whether she could, maybe I hope she shows. Most of the time they'll show. They're your supervisor. If you've asked to meet with them, they'll show. Make your case. "Ann, have I done something to disappoint you lately? It seems you talk differently to me than you once did. I always felt you trusted me. Has something happened?" Let the nurse talk and determine where you'll go next. If it doesn't change, then we have to go to the next final thing. When nothing can be done about the issue, what do you do? That's where every adult in America has a choice. No one is expected to be treated badly. And as long as you have done these steps in a professional format, you cannot be accused of being insubordinate. You're not cursing if it's the administrator. If you want to talk or why Nikki is getting 18 the same as me and I've been here 20, have that conversation. Manage your thoughts, develop your message, schedule a meeting, and make your case. But if nothing changes, if the administrator says to you, I'm sorry, Susan, but I can't do any more than 18. I'm sorry what that did to your seniority experience pay, but my hands are tied. Then Susan has a choice to go and try to find somewhere else that will meet her needs or his needs, or stay. It is really, you got to weigh you got a big decision. It shouldn't be easy to leave residents to go and patients to go deal with other residents and patients. Especially, in acute care, you turn over patients pretty quickly. In nursing homes and home care, we have a tendency to have a longer relationship with them because they're in our care longer. So, but this can apply to any setting. CNAs are so often looked at, the things that are sometimes said because of the way we carry ourselves and handle ourselves out of frustration really does. You have that right. And I have never seen a CNA be fired or anyone be fired for working this particular system. Next slide, please. This is my last slide. I don't ever do very many, but my team would be able to tell you that 4 slides is a lot of slides for Lori. I typically only get to the first one and I never move past that, but I think this is very important to be said, and I'm just going to talk about this for a couple minutes. And then I'm going to kind of look at the chat and see if you all have any situations you've faced. And I know, as I said, we've got a lot of different people on the program today. If you are a manager or a supervisor of CNAs, feel free to chat in a question. If you're a CNA and you've had issues with various people or situations and challenges you'd like some advice on, you can either chat it in here, you can email me. I'm pretty easy to find on Facebook. There is another gal named Lori Porter, but she's a singer and I can't carry a tune. So look for the silver-headed lady and you will have found me, I think. But here's something I heard a long time ago, and it had nothing to do with health care. But I don't think truer words have ever been spoken. When all you can do is all you can do, then all you can do is enough. Plain and simple. We just have to make sure we're doing all we can do, and that it is all we can do, and then all we have done is enough. When we clock out, as long as you can say that, you can go home and sleep at night. You can feel better about who you are and what you do. You do not need a bunch of people running around telling you how great you are. You need to start telling yourself, even if you don't say it out loud. People might think kind of crazy things if you said it out loud. But you can send yourself, why did I spend 4 hours bashing myself on the way to take an important examination? I did that to myself. We have got to think more highly of ourselves, and I'm happy to talk about that on the 24th in my next webinar during CNA week. I'll be joined by Dr. Nazir, and he is one of the finest medical directors in the country, and he and I recently met, and I have never met a doctor that has any more love and admiration for CNAs and know them better than Dr. Nazir. So he'll be joining me on the 24th. I hope some of you will come back for that. If there are questions, I'm going to take just a pause. Matt, will you play the video for us while I'm catching up in the chat questions, and then I'll give a little closing, and we will wrap this thing up on time.
You're my life, you're my breath, you're a smile, you're my guest. You're the earth, you're the sun, you're the grass, you are love. You're my hands, you're a bug, you're my eyes, you're a hug. You're the light in the dark, you're the spark, you are fun. You're my mom, you are water, you're the stars, you're my daughter. You're my friend till the end, you're my dreams, you're my father. You're the ants on the ground, the miracles that surround. I'm feeling it all around, the hemisphere in the clouds. You're my pain, you're my sorrow, you're my hope for tomorrow. You're the strength when I'm hollow, you're the path that I follow. You're the blessings that exist, the small things that are bliss. The gift to realize that everything
all that I am, all that I see, all that I've been, and all that I'll ever be is a blessing. It's so amazing, and I'm grateful for it all, for it all.
You're the lessons that I learned every time I turn around. You're the water when I'm burned, every time I think I found everything I'm looking for. You're the sign saying stop to take a bow and keep moving forward and start looking towards your heart. It'll open all the doors and only then you'll start to hear the world singing chorus with your mind and heart. Aligned in purpose, everything will feel gorgeous.
All that I see, all that I've been, and all that I'll ever be is a blessing. It's so amazing, and I'm grateful for it all,
Every day I sit and pray, cause what I have is more than I deserve or could ever imagine. How do I give back to all of this magic and spread the love so everybody can have it? Doesn't matter if I'm rich or poor, if I got a family or if I'm all alone. Bad things happen, I can just complain and moan, but there's a million things that I can be grateful for.
so I lift up my hands now, and I open my heart, and my gratitude goes out to everything near and far. All that I am, all that I see,
Everything I hope and everything I dream, everything I feel and everything I be. I look deep down and feel all the blessings. Everything I am and everything I see, everything I hope and everything I dream, everything I feel and everything I be. I'm grateful for it all. It's amazing. Everything I am and everything I see, everything I hope and everything I dream, everything I feel and everything I be. I look deep down and feel all the blessings. Everything I am and everything I see, everything I hope and everything I dream, everything I feel and everything I be. I'm grateful for it all. It's amazing. You're the blessings that exist, the small things that are bliss, the gift to realize that everything is a gift.
I didn't see any particular questions in chat, and I can't think of a better way to end it than with that video. I am eternally grateful to you all, and I love the residents you serve. Thank you, and have a wonderful rest of your CNA week. There's lots of things we're doing here at NAHCA to celebrate with you, and be sure to download our toolkit from the website if you need more materials or things for CNA week. Thank you all so much for taking the time to join, and for those of you that will be watching later, thank you too. We appreciate that. Have a great week.